This is National Chess Master All Rats. I'm here at chess.com to analyze a game submitted by, looks to be vaiuuii. If I said that wrong, I apologize. Versus flannufmed. And this was submitted by member best game thread, where members may submit one game for analysis. It can be their best game or one that they want analyzed to see where they went wrong. I'm about to close this thread down as soon as I catch up, so if you're just seeing this message, there's a few messages like that in the thread itself. Get your game or you won't get it, okay? I do take payment for games, but this is free, so take advantage now. Okay, so this was played under a time control of 45 minutes plus a 45-second increment. And that's a decent time to get a good game in. Ideally, a longer time would be better, but we'll work with this. Okay, so Black has provided a number of notes here. I'll incorporate those into the session. He decided to go into a Semi-Slav setup against it. And both sides are developing, so this is all fine. And this is one of those positions where Black can actually hang on to the pawn. Black development is a little in the rears or arrears for it, but I know there's a number of variations where Black can grab that pawn and hang on to it, and I'm not going to discuss that. This is one of them. Black sacrifices some development to hold on to the pawn. White tries to generate some counterplay against the pawns, and we'll see that here in a moment. Here it comes. And there it is. The white A and B pawn are attacking the black pawn chain and trying to tear it down. And here we go. Now Black needs some development, so he gets started on that respect. And here Black makes a comment, says B4 would have been interesting. Well, I'm of the opinion it's probably not all that interesting. Okay, the reason is you've got to get developed, okay? B4 it opens up C4 for a white knight. That's a good square for this knight to get to. It keeps the knight out of C3, but so what? Let it go there. Where's it going to go next? C4 looks to be a much better square for it than C3. And Bishop E7 is the better move. Okay. So now Black is two tempos down in development, and it's White's move. So it's White's 2.5 tempos up. White's got close to having compensation for the pawn. Black still has to develop the queen and the queen knight and the queen rook. White only needs to develop his queen rook. So here a good move might be rook AC1, although one could argue the rook is developed on A1 because of the activity on the A file, although it may end up getting traded for this rook if the file opens up. But what White does is reasonable. Improves the position of a piece, kind of restricts Black a little bit. Black can't develop his queen knight right now because he'll drop the pawn back. Okay, got to be careful if you develop the queen. Where are you going to put the queen? You can't really go to C7. There's discoveries, and E8 certainly looks awkward because then you still can't play knight BD7 because you're interfering with the pawn. So I think Black finds a good move here. Knight D5, shutting off that diagonal, and here the situation with the undeveloped queen rooks disappears, and then White develops his last piece, although the rook on F1 was developed. Here it's just in play a little better, and Black's got to deal with a number of issues here. The first being that he's got a loose piece, okay? The second being he's behind in development. So far the queen and the queen knight still haven't developed. In return for all this, Black has a protected pass pawn on B5. His pawn structure isn't all that fluid and mobile on the queen side, but it's a pawn ahead. So white still has compensation for the pawn sacrifice. So white develops his knight, which guards the bishop, and white makes an exchange. And question: can black give back the pawn now? Should black give the pawn back? Whoops, wrong way. In other words, if black takes on d5 with the pawn, you're giving back this pawn, but black's trying to seek exchanges and get all the pawns on one side of the board. In other words, maybe black's saying, I'm just uncomfortable here, and I'll play for a draw. Let's look at that. It's an interesting thing. It's an interesting sideline, because what's going to happen is black gets a little hogtied here trying to hang on to that pawn. And as I said, I believe white has compensation. So let's look at it. Okay, at some point white needs to take the pawn. Okay, if he doesn't take it now, he needs to take it soon enough. But black's going to start making some exchanges, and here we go. Okay, this bishop is really bad, but we'll work on that. Okay, so now, as I said, black wants to make some exchanges and gets rid of this. Now the question is this a draw? Well, it could be. Black's still got some fundamental problems to deal with, namely being the fact that he's just not completely developed and in play. This queen doesn't really have any good square to go to. Okay, it can't go to c7, b6 or a5. Can't go to b8. It can go to e8, but then it's shutting the rook in. We may not want to do that. Go to c8, then where's it going? But I think here bishop d6 is a possible move, and this is becoming drawish, although white's better off. And the reason white's better off, number one, this horrible bishop over here, it's basically got no mobility. However, it's getting close to getting back in the game now. The idea is to try to put it on c6, and but white's better posted here. The question is, can black survive this? And let's see. I'm beginning to think maybe he can. Queen c7. Now black's planning to play rook b8. So maybe there's the threat of a check down there, but not much else. Black's close to hanging on here. Now's the time probably to just clear the back rank. Good chance black can draw this. He's squirming a little bit. He's cramped. He's like a can of sardines. You know how those fish are all tightly packed inside and can't move. It's not clear how black's going to get this piece in the game, but it's not clear too how white's going to take advantage of it. If white starts advancing pawns and exchanging them, eventually maybe white can never play e4 because that'll help this bishop get out of its box. But I'm thinking black can get that bishop out of the box. Rook c8 and then bishop c6, and it's not clear if white can activate this bishop where it'll create any threats against the black position. Maybe if you get it to d3, you have some potential back rank mates, but black can cover that. It would have been an interesting try, but it's an admission that you don't have enough here, that you're satisfied with the draw, that you can't win. So there's something to be said about taking with the pawn. Here you're saying, okay, I'm a pawn ahead. I want to try to keep it. I want to see if I can beat you. If I give it back, I know I can't beat you. Now I might lose this, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to win it. Okay, let's see what happens. But a couple fundamental things haven't changed. White's still ahead in development, and black is still squirming to get out. Okay, so he finds a better square for the knight. He's heading for c4, but white just activates his rook, and black looks for some exchanges to alleviate some pressure, but white doesn't want any part of that. And here comes another threat move. Black's position is quite uncomfortable, he notes, yet white doesn't have tactics to win material right away. Okay, but white has kind of a vice grip on this. This bishop is just basically out of play. Okay, but white can't take advantage of it yet. White's got to keep pieces on the board and try to re-coordinate things. But slowly but surely, black's getting developed, and black got a piece off the board, which helps a little bit. Yet, black is, since he's behind in development, one drawback with exchanging pieces is that the board clears up and white's maybe able to find more things to do, more open lines for his pieces. So queen a2. Now finally he starts working on get the bishop into the game. He wants to go to c8. Okay, and this does have a threat on the knight on d7. So white covers that. He covers his back rank. h6 might have been a little better. The reason h6 is better, g6 just creates a hole on f6. So, but g6 is what was played. Now we're on the white's on the knight, so got to cover that. And look at this wonderful outpost for that knight. That knight's just killer on c5. Black's tied all tied up. He's hog-tied, and still he's a pawn ahead. And how's black going to win this with a pawn ahead? Well, you're going to have to get the queens off the board, I think, and then try to generate something where the king can join in the game and trade the knights off and get that pawn rolling, get the king up to support it. Although the way the black pawns are, the pawn ahead is not all that useful. Technically it's this pawn on c6 that black's ahead, and it's backward pawn on the open file. So white has full compensation for the pawn. And now comes some tricks. It comes back, goes here again, and white elects to go out this way. Now he's going to start grabbing pawns. He's going to give up the piece. It transposes here in a second. White could take this, not right now, and probably should. Although maybe he doesn't want to give up this pawn on e3. Okay, so knight d7. What's wrong with queen takes d4 here? What am I missing? Black plays queen e7. What's wrong with this? What am I missing? Oh, queen takes knight. Duh. Okay. Well, okay, queen e7. Now here he says, I tried to avoid a repetition and go for a win. So, let's see. Go for a win. So the option which, this is what he's writing, so the option which seemed the most aggressive was to sack a piece for 3 connected passed pawns. In theory, I'll do this just about any time, but the pawns are at this moment blocked by my opponent's pieces. With accurate play, white would have been winning. Yes, I agree. And you don't want to do it just any time. When your pawns aren't active, you don't want to do it then, because it's just too risky. And we'll see how white misplays this in a little bit. Now there's a sideline given. Let me just back it up. He gives a note, queen a2, Where is it? Then queen g5. He gives this line, check. This is his analysis, and he seems happy with this. Black's got some activity against the king, and if e3, knight d2 threatens a queen check. It's interesting. Okay, so this doesn't happen. White plays queen f3, right? Okay, so now he goes here anyway. Comes back. Now black grabs a pawn, but he's going to lose his piece. And there he's got the 3 connected passed pawns. Okay, so the question is, who's better off here? My main opinion is White's winning. Okay, now why is White winning? Well, the pawns are not very mobile. For the moment, one is still blocked. Number 2, they're not far advanced. And number 3, the white pieces are all active. Now, the black pieces are active too. That's some compensation for it. But the main problem is the white pieces are active. And we'll see how, when it gets critical here in just a moment. At this point, white cannot advance this c5 pawn, or pawn to c5, because it's going to drop this pawn, okay? And now there's some pressure on c6, which can't advance. Bishop c8. Let's see. I think it's at this point that White started going wrong. Okay, what White needs to do is not go after the f-pawn. Okay, the f-pawn is pretty useless in this situation. Now, why is that? Why is winning the f-pawn not important? Okay, well, what it does is it gives White a 3-on-2 kingside pawn majority. That's what it gives White. But when is White going to use that kingside pawn majority? The answer is not for a while. Okay, what's important now is the 3 monsters sitting over there on the queen side. Those need to be dealt with. Okay, and if you can win the one on c6, if White can win the one on c6, Black's just basically going to lose, because he's just not going to be able to advance his pawns quick enough. And taking the pawn on f7 just costs precious time, and let Black get them rolling. So what should White consider here? Well, rook b6 keeps an eye on this pawn from advancing. Okay, if king f6, you can anchor the knight in with f4. Yeah, you get checked. You get a little bit of a nuisance here, but White should be okay. Let's see. And you got to make sure that you don't walk into some accidental pin over here. Let's just examine rook b6. Okay, I'm thinking this is one way to start the analysis. Find a new candidate move. Let's go after this. Okay, so the first thing, I'm going to attack that knight. That activates the king, and it causes you to give me a potential check. Now, where are you going to go? Okay. Well, I'm stopping you from going to f3. So let's use the idea of giving up this. Why isn't it? Oh, it's pinned. Okay, that's why. So king f6. King f6 we can't do. Let's try c5 right away. Okay. Now you get this pin, so you got to be careful. Maybe you can't take it. You can't do this because of that pin. We don't have a way out. So rook b6 may not quite work. Let's try rook c7. Now we can play king f6 because there's going to be no pin. And now we get this pawn rolling. Okay, so let's see. Take here. Now, if black trades the knight, I think he's going to lose. Knight takes, rook takes, check, rook takes, bishop takes, and I think the bishop can outduel the pawns. Let's check it out. Of course, calculating this over the board can be difficult. Okay, let's put the king here, and let's see. Oh, let's see. What if you shove the pawn? No, you can't do that. The bishop just takes it and covers the queening square. Game over. By the time black gets his king over there to assist the pawn and promote, white will just give his bishop back and run his king in, and that's it. So black cannot afford to trade. Whoop. Okay, so what about b6? Now black's in this position where he's trying to run that pawn, and he's got a pin here. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. I don't know. It seems to me that but just going for that pawn is not right. There's got to be a way to do this. Probably. Excuse me. Let's see. It's definitely one to look at, but you got to keep these pawns from advancing. I mean, it's just so critical. I'm thinking white can do it. White can find a way to. Oh, one way to do it is just play. We get away with this. Okay, the point being on knight takes. Now we do the pinning. Now, interesting is this move, but then black has two pawns for the compensation, but they're isolated, and white's threatened to win one of them right now. How's black going to save this pawn? The threat is rook here. Okay, so you pretty much have to push it. Let's see, d4, rook here, d4 takes, d2, and rook back, and you're white's winning, so you got to play here. Now the knight's tied down to guarding it, and here comes the white king into the game. Let's see. I'm thinking white's probably winning this. Eventually, black's going to have to give some ground somewhere. And now that the king is here in the vicinity, the rook is free. It could remaneuver and maybe get behind those pawns over there. So let's see. What else? What other options does black have? Yeah, bishop takes c6 seems to do it. I could be wrong, but anyway, I we could spend hours on this. If you're wanting to know about endings, this is a perfect ending to look at because you're trying to see what happens when you have a bunch of pawns for a piece, and it shows the correct way to stop them is to go after those for your targets. So anyway, no, he didn't play. See what? Oh, bishop e8 is what he played. He went after the f pawn, and as we'll see, that's just a faulty strategy. Because now black's able to get the pawns rolling, and white can't take on b5 because in the long run f7 is going to be loose. So black's got the pawns running, and here they go. And now the black king's in the game too, and white's pieces don't look as active as they were. They're all getting pushed off to the side of the board now. And look at the black king. He's penetrating. So probably black is winning at this stage. And if it weren't for the check, that black would have mate. See, I thought this was inaccurate. It allows me to activate my king and protect the passers. My opponent was in time trouble at this stage. Well, that can explain it. What else is there? Let's see. Oh, this bishop and knight are out of play, and these pawns are becoming very strong. I don't know. I think black's winning this, but anyway, let's move on. Check. This just helps the king, and white's doing a little bit of maneuvering, but it doesn't matter. Those pawns are advanced and they're deadly, and black was able to make an exchange. And even if white can sacrifice his knight, he can't sacrifice it for 2 pawns. Maybe that's what he needs to try to do. But even if he sacks it for 2 pawns, he's probably going to be left with a lost ending. You have to try to find one of those endings where you're drawing a rook and pawn ending, a pawn down. It's just too much to ask. Those pawns are just too dangerous. Black is winning here, no question about it. None whatsoever. Look at that. Those pawns are just marching right in. And white ended up losing his pawn on h2. But you can see, even if he'd kept it, his pawn majority never got going. And white's decision to win the pawn on f7 cost him the game, because black got his pawns rolling. But anyway, just one minor error. Both sides can be very happy with their play. You can't always play the perfect game, and sometimes one critical slip can turn a win into a loss. And white had winning chances, and suddenly white had losing chances. And black, could have played passively and gone for a draw, as I pointed out, but black tried for the win too. So you got to tip your hat for trying for a win. Sometimes you have to risk a loss to play for a win. It might be the only way you can win. It's something we all learn in our growth as chess players. But anyway, very interesting game. Thanks for taking time to watch it, everybody. And I'll be back with another one real soon. Take care.